have Elena Foulis here from Ohio State and Ochla. We have Perla Alarcón-Flory, who is representing us here today, the school board president for Sioux City Community School District. And we have Tonya Ward, who is here representing LULAC, which is the League of United Latin American Citizens. And she is here all the way from Omaha. Thank you, Elena, for coming all the way from Ohio.
Yes.
So we're going to start with Elena. She's going to give us just a brief introduction into her work, and then we'll start.
Hi, my name is Elena Foulis. I am a faculty member in the Department of Spanish and Portuguese at the Ohio State University. I'm also Associate Director for the Center for Ethnic Studies. I am an immigrant. I've been in the U.S. for almost 30 years. I can't believe it. And I also am a commissioner for the Ohio Latino Affairs Commission. I've been at Ohio State for over 10 years, and I'm starting my third year with the commission, formally as a commissioner, although I've been working with OCHLA, that's how we call it, for almost 10 years too, because I teach a service learning course and my students work with this particular organization.
Well, I don't know how to speak for very long periods of time. I might have ants in my pants. My name is Perla Alarcon-Flory. Can you guys hear me okay? Can you understand me okay? Do you feel comfortable with me wearing a mask or not wearing a mask? Preferences? Okay, you can understand me, right? Yeah. I've been told that they need a fourth president that speaks better English. So I'm just making sure that you guys can understand.
Crystal clear.
Crystal clear. Yes.
So anyway, thank you so much. There is not much that I'm gonna do about my accent. I am who I am. I was born, raised, and educated in Mexico. I have a degree in international relations. And I actually came to the States to practice my English. Little did I know that I was going to meet this boy who became my friend for the next 2 years. And he went down to visit me, proposed, brought me here, and he is my American dream. That's it. Even to this day, and this is 22 years later. But in the things that I've done, I have worked with the community very closely. I have the honor to know your professors here because we have worked in one thing or another for the community, and I am honored for this invitation and for the time to spend with you. I have 3 children, and the community I have worked with the Department of Human Services, with the Iowa Workforce Development, with the new Iowa Sector program. I have worked in banking. I have worked in so many things. I currently have a business. I am an interpreter, certified core interpreter and translator. And you might think that there are a lot of us, but they are not. I honestly cover 18 counties in Iowa and 15 counties in Nebraska. And so there is a huge need for bilingual services and certified bilingual services. So if that is something that interests you, check it out. And that's what I do. So I travel a lot, but I also have a vested interest in my community. So I began serving on an advisory capacity for the Sioux City Community Schools Advisory Board or Advisory Committee. And I began just there because I felt that I had a lot of experience that wasn't quite reflected for the board. Our district is changing a lot. Now, our district of 15,000 students is 46% white, 36% Hispanic, and then the rest of the other classifications. So there was a need to reflect that makeup of our district. And I felt I could serve as a connector. And then I started serving as a school board member. I ran for office back in 2013. And it was honestly the longest shot in my life. I didn't think I was gonna be elected that easily, but I wasn't gonna give up. I was ready to run again in 2015 if needed be, because there were 3 things that were very obvious to people. Are you ready for them? I don't know if you've noticed. I'm a woman. I'm a woman of color. And then I'm an immigrant. Can you tell that just by looking at me? Well, this could be my 3 pluses or my 3 minuses. I have decided these are exactly my pluses. And so I decided to run. I wasn't elected the first time. I was surpassed by 3 white men, but one of them had to step down. There was a warrant for his arrest. And when he became a public person, they caught him. And so I was appointed at the beginning, but I did have to run for a special election. And I have actually been elected to the board 3 times. Again, this is the end of my second term. And in this second term, well, I need to decide if I'm running again for the 3rd time. We just had the COVID experience. We have a whole lot of things and deficiencies and remediation and mitigation to do. So I feel that it'd be very wrong on my end to step down and just allow new people to figure out what to do when we've been working with these for the longest time. So here I am running again, and I'm gonna leave it at that. Thank you for your time.
Oh, good morning. Oh, it's afternoon now. Sorry. I am Tonya Ward, and I have a couple of different hats that I wear. So bear with me as I read this to you so I don't get off track because I talk excessively. So I want to thank you for having me here. And I'm here today with my son Marcus and Tesla, his girlfriend, and they're both members of LULAC with us. And I just appreciate the invitation and to meet you ladies. It's an honor to be here with all of you. So I was born in Chicopee Falls, Springfield, Massachusetts in '67. My mom and dad, Ronald and Sylvia Ward. My dad was born and raised in Youngstown, Ohio, and my mom's from the islands of St. Kitts, Nevis, and Aruba. So South America, in the Sea of Caribbean is where I come from. My father served in the U.S. Force, and that's how we moved to Nebraska after living and going to school in Taipei, Taiwan, Pennsylvania, England, and then I finally landed at Bellevue East, and I graduated there in '85. I have a rich heritage from North and South America, which embraces French, Portuguese, Dutch, African-American, Navajo, Hopi, Arawak Indian, and Taino Indian. My sons are Czechoslovakian and French and me. And so I call us a diverse melting pot of love. That's what my family, my niece and my nephews are Filipino. And so we got almost all of it. So I'm honored to serve as the National Civil Rights Leader, serving with LULAC as the president of the new Omaha Justice Council, number 35006, with Ms. Elsa Ramon, my mentor, who is the president of LULAC Nebraska and Lincoln. And LULAC stands for the League, as Stacy said, League of United Latin American Citizens, and it is the largest and the oldest Hispanic membership organization in the country for the past 90 years fighting for civil rights. So they fought alongside of Martin Luther King and everyone who came before and after him. My goal is, the president, is to help unite all people, brown, black, and white, to advocate for justice for all, civil rights, health reform, immigration, housing needs, economic empowerment, education, technology, civil participation, and public service, to uplift and support and improve the quality of the lives of all of the members of our states and in our communities throughout Nebraska, Iowa, and Colorado, which are our collaborations. I've been elected official of Nebraska since 2014. I serve on the learning community, coordinating council of Douglas and Sarpy and Washington counties. They'll have to keep expanding that name as they steal more of the taxpayers' money to build their empires. So I'm one of the only no voters on that board because I'm the only one that believes the entity is failing to provide good stewardship for over 10 million of your property tax dollars if you live in Douglas, Sarpy, or Washington counties. The goal of that money is to help the students in poverty overcome their barriers and excel in education. Unfortunately, they're creating empire-rich people off of the pockets of that money, and the kids, they don't even get a month's worth of rent, $24,000. They don't even get that much. So that's I get angry, I get angry at the system for exploiting the money because I feel like in America, that's the downfall of everything. The money comes in for a purpose. By the time it wiggles down, it goes back up to the people who don't even deserve to be touching it. So that's why I fight and I vote no always for that. So you can see my record is follow the money. To every problem in society, follow the money. Follow the money trail and you'll find the solutions because the money doesn't lie. Well, I take it back. Embezzlement. That's lying. So just take that one with a grain of salt, please. Let's see, I'm most proud of our work through Energy Rescue, which is a nonprofit 501c3 I started when I could not pay my utility bills after I divorced my double doctor husband. So I'm alone with 3 kids and I have been shut off for 3 months. OPPD and MUD would not help me, so I had no water, no gas, no electricity, and 3 little babies to care for. So improvisation, borrow the hose from the neighbor, fill up the bathtub, haul my biggest pot of water to make spaghetti noodles several times a day just to heat up water to do my baby's bath, to cook the meal, and to clean the house. So that was what inspired me to start Energy Rescue, and through that work, we have advocated for justice for so many people who get from life's basic necessities. It's not a privilege. It's not a privilege to have these lights on. It's a necessity. How can you learn in the dark by candlelight? We're too advanced for that. So we shouldn't shut out people's homes, because in Nebraska, they remove the children from the home, shut off from utilities. They take them and they dump them in foster care by police force and CPS. And then they destroy the family with false cases of abuse and neglect. It's not abuse and it's not neglect to not be able to afford life's basic necessities. When your budget is small and the bill is great, somebody should step in, and that's the failure of our system. Instead of that money that comes in to help people, actually lifting the family and paying the bill and saving the integrity of the family, it's used to divert to the cops, CPS, the court systems, everybody that gets involved in that tangle web of child foster care. So that's my other heart passion, because one phone call that came on our hotline ended up being 5 little Latina girls who their mom wanted to pay the $300 to the electric company the next Friday. They said no. So she called our hotline. I called and said, hey, we'll make the pledge, but we can't get the money till Friday. Can you work with us? They said no. 3 days later, they come to the house and they took all 5 little girls, ranged from age 16 down to 5 years old. And I was right there. But we also made a precedent case, because in 9 hours, those little girls were safe in my arms, in my home, with their mother. I brought her in with us against their decisions. But when you're a foster parent, you get to make the decisions for those children's life. And for me, I thought the best interest for those little girls was to have their mommy. So I brought them in the house. We fought 2 judges it took, and the little girls were free. So I talk so much. I really am over. Just quick, the Grameen women of South Omaha, I'm not sure if you ever heard of Grameen. It was built in India. They came to America, to South Omaha. They found a pocket of 15 women and that were all Latino, and they gave us money to start or improve our businesses. The program was excellent. We had so much fun meeting Muhammad Yunus. But the problem was no marketing, no promotion. So all those wonderful businesses just fizzled out because there was nothing. That's nice to get money. It's nice they got started, but then they're gone and there was nothing. Nebraska City Law, I don't know if you've all heard of that, but that's one of our biggest fights. Still currently right now, they tried to steal my own 2 children due to lies about attendance, turning attendance numbers into truancy. And it's really wrong, but all we did was amend it. We didn't get to abolish it, but it needs to be abolished because when we were growing up, there was no truancy law to take you into court and take you away from your family. It's all for profit off of kids, and that's bad. So the last 2, just Green Bellevue and Bellevue, Nebraska. I'm a founding member of that board. The USGBC, United States Green Building Council. I'm a member and former Green Homes Chair of that board. And Kiss the Ground Soil Regenerative Agriculture. I just became a representative for them and went to class. And so now I'm an advocate for organic gardening and get to know your farmer, know your food, and bring food to the table. And I'm going to stop talking.
You're exactly on time.
It's on time.
Okay, so I have one question for each of you, and we'll come back to Elena. Elena, why did you decide to become an educator? And why do you think it's important to have Latina leaders in higher education?
So I've talked about this a little bit over the past 2 days here in Iowa. And I didn't always saw myself as an educator. After I graduated from Ohio State, I was married then and we moved to Dallas. And I became a first grade bilingual teacher in Dallas by chance in a way. I started as a substitute teacher, and then the teacher that I was substituting for decided to quit. So I became the permanent teacher. And it was a wonderful experience. All of my students in that classroom were Mexican or Mexican American. And I enjoyed, even to learn a lot as I was doing the job. I enjoy working in the classrooms. I enjoy helping students read, helping students, find their way in the school system, and also work with parents. So after that, we moved to Arkansas, and I started grad school. And so my education shifted to higher education, right? And I had decided that I really wanted to be an educator, that I really liked being an educator. So that was my path. Although I never set out to be a professor, at several points in my life, there was a person or, a professor that saw something in me and said, hey, have you considered, doing a master's? And I hadn't considered that. And that sort of planted a seed, right? And that later on, I did apply for grad school. And then after a master's, when I was going through the master's program, I said, no way, I'm going to do a PhD. Like, that's too much work. By that time, I had my first daughter when I was on my first year of master's. And then when I was thinking about, starting the PhD, my second daughter was born. And so I had a lot on my plate, and I thought, okay, well, there was this fellowship that again, somebody told me about, and I applied for it. And it was through the Southern Regional Educational Board that has fellowship to increase the number of high collar across universities. So I was granted that fellowship, and so that helped me. I'm like, okay, well, this is the path I need to take, and I did. Through this journey, one of the things that I realized is that there's not a lot of us, right? And even being part of that organization that, their purpose is to increase the number of faculty of color across universities, I realized that there wasn't a lot of representation, right? Not only in grad school, but also as I was looking for mentors, right? As I was looking for people that maybe had shared my journey or had something to tell me about their own sort of journeys in higher education. I really had those conversations at the yearly meetings for the SREB and thinking through, some of the obstacles of faculty of color across higher education. So that became my mission too, right? So not only was I determined then to become a professor, but to help others, right? To help our undergraduate, graduate students to see themselves as belonging in higher education, as perhaps consider grad school and make a difference. And we don't all have to be professors, but if we can, why not, right? And I have to say that my higher education experience is very non-traditional. Every step of the way, since high school, my education journey has been non-traditional, right? When I was in high school, I had to work. So in Mexico, where I grew up, they had night school. And so I went to my high school at night, which meant that I was the only high school age student at night school, and all my peers were adults. Like, they were, people that some of them were married. Everyone was at least 3 to 10 years older than me at that time. I turned 15 as a freshman, in high school, but that experience taught me a lot, of seeing older people finishing committed to education against all odds, right? After having a full day of work, they would come at night to study and to finish high school. And I was working too, but I didn't have a family. I didn't have a lot of responsibilities, right? And they were doing that work. I started at a community college, and I'm one of the few that has the story of from community college to PhD. So every step that I've taken has been non-traditional. And I think that's important for a lot of first generation students to hear, right? Because we don't all have to graduate, in 4 years, although we save money if we graduate in 4 years. Right? But it's okay if we take longer. It's okay if we go a different route and then come back. It's okay if you take a break. I took a break after each degree. For life reasons, personal reasons, but also just to take a breather, right? And think, do I want to continue? Do I really want to commit? When I decided to pursue my PhD, that was 5 to 7 years that I was committing my life to, right? And so I wanted to really be sure that that's what I wanted to do. So I think it's important to have more people that look like me across institutions, right? We have a lot of first generation students of color that are coming to our institutions, and they need to hear that it is possible. They need to hear that that we belong here, which is not something that I always had, right? I was also a commuter student, when I was an undergrad. So my connection, there's a lot of things that I missed or missed out on that I am very committed to making sure that my students know that there is resources, that they know that they can have, even if they're commuter students, that they can still have the full college experience without having to, because some of our students who are commuter students for different reasons. And something that I didn't have when I was going to Ohio State is that there wasn't a lot of resources for those kinds of students, right? And now we have made things a little bit better, for all types of students that come to a university. And I think part of that change is awareness. Part of that change is having more faculty that have this non-traditional path like I have, and that can point out, some of the things that maybe could be missing or how students can be better served. So yeah, I am, if I had again, I would do it again. I still, this path is what I love to do. I love being in this space, and one of the things about higher education personally is that challenge to learn constantly. I'm always learning something. So yeah.
Thank you. Perla, you are the only elected official in Woodbury County that identifies as Latino. Can you tell us a bit about what that means to you in terms of an opportunity, right? But also why it's a problem that you are the only one?
Wow, that is a big question. Okay, it is a big question. And once again, I talk better when I stand up. I apologize. I never set out to be an elected official. That was never my intention. I never set out to gain a position of power because that was never my intention either. I never set out to be the president of the United States because I wasn't born here, so I will never be able to be it. But joke aside, it has never been an issue of power. I have always seen myself serving people, helping people, building people. I feel that my goal or my purpose or my mission in life is to help others. That's it. That's how I feel and how I see myself. I am extremely proud of my roots. I am proud of who I am. I'm proud of my parents and my grandparents, great-grandparents, and all those before them that made it possible for me to be here. And I just hope that my children and my grandchildren and great-grandchildren and so forth will be proud of me when the time comes. That's what makes me tick at the end of the day. But let me tell you, I found myself in this country and I found this misconception that the Latino is ignorant, the Latino is lazy, the Latino is a wild party animal and doesn't care for much more than alcohol and the good life. And I'm not that. I promise you, I'm not that. Do I love to party? Hey, you bet. I'm a Latina. But my point on this is I'm not an ignorant person. I'm a very hardworking individual. I have very strong family values. I have very strong moral values. You know, what can I tell you? You possibly don't know me, so you will have to take my word for it. But this is who I am. And the worst part is when I have kids in front of me being told that they weren't supposed to be anything or accomplish anything. I was working for the Department of Human Services and I was helping people fill out job applications. And many of the people that I was helping were just coming out of high school. So part of the normal conversation was, so what's next? Imagine that you are told this. I'm not going to work. How come? I am not college material. What do you mean? Well, my teacher, my counselor, my principal, some adults in their educational life had told them they weren't college material. Normally, the kid standing in front of me looked like what? What do you think? Do you think the kid standing in front of me looked like me? Yeah, you bet. He was never a blonde kid. He was always a brown kid. Why? Why were they told that? And that was my next question in the conversation. I'm not telling you this to make you feel guilty about anything, because this is not you. This is what these kids were told, and I'm just sharing why I decided to step in. And so then the thing was based on what? It was based on the fact that their parents didn't go to college. So would you raise your hand if your parents went to college? I just want to see it. Okay, great. Could you raise your hand if you're the first generation going to college? Wow. Wow. So imagine that you were told that you are not college material because your parents didn't go to college. You are not college material because your parents work in the fields. You are not college material because your parents work in meatpacking places. You are not college material because your parents are immigrants. Imagine if you were told that. Is that fair? No, it wasn't. Because it wasn't based on the performance, behavior, or accomplishment of the person that I had in front of me. And even that, there is no way to measure potential, to measure ambition, to measure grit, to measure hard work. You are the only ones that are going to determine that. So I think it's when I decided to start changing the perspective of the community. And I was lucky enough to work on an organization called Women with Latina. And it's when I met Mr. Gale. And we started working together. And we started working in several projects. The first one was to ask for nominations of an outstanding Latino girl and an outstanding Latino boy from 8th grade, 12th grade, and all Latino that will graduate from college to be recognized as an outstanding student. And it wasn't only academic achievements, it was also some voluntarism and some other extracurriculars where they could be good examples for others to see, because we were trying to have the focus on the good that these kids were doing, not the bad, not on their parents, not on their history. It was on the good that they were doing. And the first year we got like 6 nominations. Who was born in 2003? Oh, okay, good. Ooh, I was getting worried. Okay, so that was, I mean, that was 2003 when we got 6 nominations of 6 kids. Of course, I was only 3 years old. But my point is that over time, there were more and more kids being nominated for these things. At some point, we started getting nominations from towns in a 100-mile radius. So we had all these districts in Le Mars, in Hinton, in Saxon Bluff, in South City, and all the towns around, even from Norfolk, Nebraska, people nominating kids to be recognized. There were years that we had so many students now graduating from college that it was the most exciting thing that could happen. And then not only that, we had like 82 people at one time, 76 or 68, so we started with 6, but at some point we were able to recognize in the 80s, it was just an amazing ripple effect. We have kids now that have been recognized in 8th grade, and they came back to be recognized in 12th grade, and then they came back to be recognized when they graduated from college. As we've had kids that said, my older brother was recognized, I'm going for it. And so we recognize the oldest, the middle, and the youngest, right? So that was changing the perspective. But then there was this other perspective. Immigrant parents don't care about their children's education. Ladies and gentlemen, there is nothing further from the truth. Immigrant parents care about their kids' education. They just don't know how the system works. So we needed to help them understand that. And I found that myself. Now, I told you that I was born, raised, educated in Mexico, right? So I came as an adult. I didn't know the educational system or what classes needed to be taken or what tests needed to be taken and things like that. But now I was raised in a family and I wanted to learn those things for my own children. But then I realized that there were a whole bunch of people in my community that were going through the same thing and trying to understand the rules of the game. And you might say, they don't get it. No, the rules of the game are different in every country. So let's just explain the rules of the game and make them part of the game. They can understand their responsibilities and duties, but also their privileges and rights. And so that communication was very necessary because our community continues to change. It's changing, it has changed and continues to change. You might say diversity, for what? Why are we talking about diversity? We all have very unique experiences. Even when you think about your own family, think about your family who has siblings in this room. Okay, who is the oldest in this room? Who is the baby in this room? Who is the middle child in this room? Who is an only child in this room? Okay, so life experiences are very different, right? Even if we share the same Christmas, right? And we have the same party, the memories that your oldest sibling is going to have are very different to the youngest sibling. And when you sit around the table or when you talk to all of your relatives at a funeral, you realize that the most magical Christmas you remember was the worst Christmas ever for half the group. Right? Am I joking or not? When you think about discipline, guys, I'm the oldest and I'm the only woman. Oh my gosh, my parents couldn't be more strict with me. But my youngest brother, he got away with murder, So when I think about these memories, his life experience in the same household, in the same country, with the same parents was completely different. So imagine how different can it be when we come from different places. You're now in college. Are your experiences similar to the ones that you have? When you talk about your life, is it even similar? Close? You have some aspects in common, but at the end of the day, we have very individual experiences. And all that change is diversity. So many times when we hear the word diversity, we get defensive. Diversity, what do they mean by that? Are they meaning that people of color are better than white people? No, we're not meaning that. We're saying that our life experience has been different, and we need to also have that life experience reflected. And we also have a responsibility to mentor and champion these children, right? And so why is so important? We learn leadership, all of us. We learn different perspectives, different ways to solve issues. We become more creative. At the end of the day, we become better people. So the school board was struggling with how do we now connect with this new population that we have? And when I look around, the people that were sitting on the school board, I'm just gonna say didn't look like me. How's that? Is that fair? We had people that were retired, which is great. Now they had the time to serve. But also, it had been decades since the last time they stepped into a classroom. Did they actually have that connection or that communication or that understanding of the needs of the students or the families that we serve? Probably not. We also have a population that is more diverse. Who could connect with those people? We didn't have women. Sometimes the leadership style of a woman, not sometimes. The leadership style of a woman is very different to the leadership style of a man. And it's not because the woman does it better than the man or that the man does it better than the woman. It's because we come from different perspectives. And so we just can complement each other. And so there was a need for somebody that was a little different that could bring those needs. Last but not least, again, we needed to change the perspective of parents as of what they needed to do and how college or higher education was ability, because it was impossible. And third, change the perspective of the kids. Imagine the hopelessness and the despair and that sense of loss when you are amount to do anything, because you are nothing. You are never going to accomplish it, right? And so that was the reason. Why is it so hard? I told you again, when I see myself, I don't only see Perla. I see the generations before me and the generations after me. And I'm trying to think what paths have I actually opened for people. Many times I feel that I'm the token. That might be true. That might be true. But at the same time, I think that I bring a perspective that they haven't seen before. I can share the experiences had. I am not African. However, I don't speak any of the African languages. However, I have gone through the immigrant experience and we have that in common. I'm able to understand that. I don't speak Hmong or Vietnamese, but I understand the experience and the cultural shock when they came to live here. So that level of connection and that level of understanding has helped a lot to serve this community. At the end of the day, I think it's about serving students. But once again, the same way you feel inspired when you finally saw a woman breaking a ceiling is the same way somebody that is from a different color sees someone that has been able to break another ceiling. So we just at the end of the day need to mentor for the kids and open the door for other people to follow.
Thank you, Perla. Thank you. Tonya, I know you talked about in a lot of our courses that COVID disproportionately affects communities of color. And I know that you've done a lot of work advocating for food security in particular. Can you also tell us what support's available in communities in Omaha to pay for rent and utilities since COVID? And do you feel like, are there enough resources to help pay these bills, communicate with landlords and utility companies to avoid the shutoffs you were describing?
Oh my goodness, how much time do we have now? I'm just teasing. So I'm gonna go last question first.
Sure.
How much resource, I'm gonna be switch around. Resources are for COVID, rent, utilities, and internet. If you're behind on your bills in Omaha, there's a group called MAACH, M-A-A-C-H. They got millions and millions of dollars of COVID money, but they're very small entities. So it has taken from March of this year to present to process applications because they didn't have enough help to process the volume of applications for help that came in. So now I've heard through the grapevine that they've hired other agencies to do the work. So the millions are there. The government sent them to Nebraska, but Douglas County decided to get their own millions of COVID money to be in charge of, and they separated us from the rest of the state. So outside of the city limits of Omaha, but still in Douglas County, there's another entity called COPE, or C-O-P-E or C-O-R-E. I think it's C-O-P-E. And they got the other set of millions of dollars, but they've already helped as many people as they can. The people who've fallen through the cracks, missed emails, missed phone calls, missed the contact from them. So once they come back around and need them again, they will help them. But for the majority of the state, it feels like, I'm just gonna say this, I feel like our governor dropped the ball because COVID is not over. And people are pretending or acting like COVID's over. Now, I'm not wearing a mask today. It's not because I'm not vaccinated. It's because it's uncomfortable. And it's not because I'm afraid of the germs. I already had COVID. And my children have had COVID. So I know we have the antibodies. But mostly it's because I just miss I miss your beautiful faces. I miss your smile. But I've learned to appreciate eyes, right? We learn to appreciate eyes through this whole ordeal. So community resources for us, I think they have to be followed up on by people in the community because the money is here. If you need services, the money's here. The problem is the process. In order to get the application, there's like steps. You have to first send an email, Then your landlord has to send an email, and then you get sent a link. Well, that link has been broken for the last 3 weeks. And I've tried myself to get some assistance, but the link is broken. So for the last 3 weeks, how many thousands of people have not got any help? And the communications aren't going from the people who got the millions to the utility companies to say, hey, Joe and Anna, they qualify, the money's on the way, please don't, evict them. But eviction courts are open and they're flushing people out into poverty and into the streets. And it's really a shame because the money's there. So how we solve the problem, I think, is the community has to be the watchdogs. Each of you have the responsibility to help your community make sure that your neighbor's okay, make sure that old man Jones is okay, down the way. Our sense of community during COVID, I think, has increased because people have had to check up on people. I've seen many birthday parties with them inside the house and someone's in art and waving and balloons and stuff. But how did society get to this point? So I'm praying to God that because I can see this ocean of all of you beautiful people, and some have masks and some do not have masks, but we're still all okay and we're taking care of ourselves. The immune systems, that's the other part. In COVID, I didn't see a lot of ads saying, eat organic, clean, healthy food. Stop going to McDonald's and eating. That's easy because it was convenient, because it was the only place open, during the pandemic when it was at the height. All you found open was McDonald's. I remember sitting in line an hour just so my kid could get the chocolate shake and a cheeseburger. And I'm like, why? But I could have gone to the grocery store and bought that same thing. So the food insecurity, to address that situation, we need to embrace the farmers that are around you, the gardeners that are around you. Grow your yard with food, whatever's your favorite. You like strawberries, grow strawberries. You want potatoes, put them inside of a garbage bag and poke some holes in it and put in dirt. And as the plant grows up, add some more dirt. And at the end of harvest, you rip that thing open and our potatoes will fall out. You don't need to be extreme gardener to grow food, herbs and spices that can help your health. Turmeric, you can grow everything just in a little pot. So know your farmer, know your food, know what's in your food. I think that is one of the problems of, especially in our poor communities. Where I live, I have to drive 21 miles to get to a baker's because my community of South Omaha, we don't have a grocery store that's big. We have little mom and pop grocery stores, but they don't get the products that I'm looking for, international foods. They don't get the products that I'm used to buying for my family. So we have to start growing the food in your yard, make a project and just plant 3 things. Whether you put them in the pot, or whether you dig up the ground a little bit and stick the seeds in the ground and take care of them, you're growing food. Because one day, I don't know what's going to happen to us when the shipping containers stop coming to America. When we can't export our corn and our goods out, we have to rely on ourselves. And that's why in Energy Rest, we teach sustainability, sustainable living. Solar, I don't know how many of you are familiar with solar, but what a great job it is to be on a solar team. It doesn't mean you're up on the roofing or just, connecting those gigantic solar panels. Solar panels have gotten small as, not this, but a brick. That's the smallest solar panel that I've seen. And there's little tiny solar arrays that heat up the pots, and you can do solar cooking, bake a chicken out on your sidewalk in the sunshine, make a pot ever. And it's not just for camping, because one of the days that you go home and that light switch doesn't click on because the electricity is down, like it happened in Texas this winter. Imagine that all those massive people were shut off. They don't know what to do. They're not from Nebraska and Iowa. We know what to do in winter. We know we're hardy people. But those folks down in Texas had the worst time ever. They did not know. So one of you ladies were saying about telling the people, I think it's you, how do they know? The parents, how do they know how to do it? We need to teach them. Where's the path? We need to make a clear, bigger path so that everybody can be food secure. So I don't know, I talk so much, but I hope I answered your question.
Wonderful, thank you so much. And I do have 2 more questions, but our students have also prepared questions. So
Okay.
I'm gonna turn it over to them. And then if we have 5 minutes at the end, then I'll come back to the questions about your leadership. So, we want to start. You guys go.
Thank you. My question is for Perla. Recently, you've been working towards getting bilingual books for, like accessible for children and their families. So like, what are your main arguments for supporting and pushing towards like this? Like, why is that so important?
I'm sorry. The question is about bilingual books
Yes,
and why is it so important to have bilingual?
well,
education?
this is the story. Do you guys speak another language? Yes, yes. Your brain has a superpower. Yes. So, we are talking that we serve kids that are from preschool to 12th grade. Many of these kids are learning just how to read, and we need to learn how to read in order to learn, right? And so we all talk about parents being partners in education. But at the same time, even though the kids are like sponges, they go to school and they might not speak a lick of English when they get here, they pick up English like nobody's business. Like, I wish I had power that they have in learning. But then they go home, and at home, they don't have access to books. If you go to the library, how many books do you find in other languages? It's a very limited selection. Now you might have a few more in Spanish, but what other languages do you have? If you go to Barnes and Noble, you're gonna find a selection there, very few, of some bilingual books or books in another language, but how many languages and how big is the selection? It might be just maybe one of the bookshelves and that's it, in the entire store. So there is a shortage of those books. But we want those parents to read to their kids. And it's best if you start reading to your kids from the womb, right? But we want them to read, but they don't have access to them. So how do we get access to these books? So I've been actually reaching out to different authors and groups and stuff like that might have access to other books in other languages. I don't know if you know this, but right now, Sioux City Schools has 59 different countries in the district, and we have 41 different languages in the district. So when you think about this, and I want you to read the book, but you don't read English for your kid, how are you gonna do that? How are you gonna do that? So I just thought that if I could get those bilingual books, parents should be able to read to their kids in their native language, which is a privilege to have. Because once you have a very strong native language, you can learn any other language. Versus the idea that, oh no, they only have to learn English and they have to forget it, which creates a very lacking, a very weak foundation to learn your second language. But going back to these then, parents should be able to read that. And not only that, they should be able to also try to read those parts in English and maybe learn a little bit of English. But also the kids should be able to share their own experience with the parents. There is this exchange between parents and children reading those books. But what if an Anglo student takes those books in other languages home? Maybe, just maybe, they will be curious about the world and more open to other communication and to other cultures and other ideas. So that's kind of my logic behind it. And I've been lucky enough to find people that have donated books to our district. And so I'm just so happy about the possibilities. When you think of a globalized world and an interdependent world, I think that's a very good thing.
It really is hard to find books that aren't just translations. I gotta say, Elena brings books to my kids every time she visits, right? Another question?
So I have a question for Dr. Foulis. So we noticed that your work stems from your interest in the Latino community in the Midwest. How can we as Morningside students embrace the Latino community at our school and then be able to take what we know and spread it around?
What was the last part? I didn't.
Just take what knowledge you have about the Latino community and spread it around.
Right. I mean, I'm just hearing all these numbers, right, from Perla and how much the Sioux City community has grown, and is very much reflected in the schools, right? If you have a large number of Latino students in the schools, that means you have a large number of parents and families, like the larger families. With that, hopefully too, there are Latino serving organizations across the city that you can get involved with. So I teach service learning courses, and my students, and I connect my students with Latino serving organizations. they complete some hours in the community. A lot of times, in Ohio has been growing also in the Latino population. And Columbus, where I live, Franklin County has also, been growing. And from 92, when I first arrived to Columbus, Ohio to now, it has, I don't know, it's 10 times the population that it was before. So, getting involved with your community. If Morningside, I don't know how many courses with that type of community engagement component there is, but building courses that really make you go out into communities, because your college experience should not be just Morningside, right? It shouldn't be just here. It should be what's happening outside of this wall. How are you going to be prepared to go into the community when you have never been, part of that community or thought about some of the issues that are concerning, in your local community, which gives you skills, whether you stay here in Sioux City or elsewhere, you gain some skills on how to do this type of work in other communities. So yeah, I think, it could start with classes. It could start with a small project about just learning, having guest speakers like Perla or other organizations, leaders of other organizations, and see what is it, what's the work that they do, and how can I get involved? I don't think that, just listening to Perla is enough. I think that being in the community is the next step. So now you learn. Now you can't say you know that there is 40% of students out there, or I forgot the number, maybe 60% of students out there that are identified as non-white. Now that you have the information, what are you going to do about it, right? Are you going to be involved? Are you going to serve? Are you going to take out Spanish more seriously?
What?
Are you, and I think that's what it comes down to, right? So you gather information and then you have to do something with that information. And this is because when you leave Morningside, you might be working with a community that's very different than you. And have you gained those skills are you prepared to be, interacting with people from different backgrounds? Are you informed about what your community needs? And your community is not just who looks like you, right? It's all of it. And I tell you, I've been teaching service learning courses for 10 years. And the students, even Latino students that take those courses, have never thought about, because as a college student, you're busy, right? A little busy, I don't know. Especially if you're an athlete or if you are a student and work as well. You can be very busy and you sort of stay within your limits, right? Of the activities that you do, school and activities. And you forget that there's life outside of the university, right? So in this class, even my Latino students come out, with this personal and professional growth of having gone into communities that, they didn't know. As Latinos, they're like, well, I didn't know this organization existed, and I am, happy to learn that they serve my community. I want to be a part of that. And I also have non-Latino students, the majority of it, who gain not only, skills when they learn about nonprofit organizations and things like that, but they make true, real connections with Latino people, Latinx people in the community. They build friendships. They, since some of my students work with OCHLA, with the Ohio Latino Affairs Commission, they sometimes stay longer, after the semester, they stay as interns and they learn they get so many skills. They not only do they get to practice the language in real, in their world, but they also make connections. Those relationships are key for you to understand, to learn, to listen to stories, right? Not just data or numbers, but you're actually working alongside the people and making a difference. So to me, it's, you have the information now, what's happening, a little bit of a taste of what's happening in your community here, now get engaged.
I would just say a lot of our students volunteer at Mary J. Trillia Community Roles, which is an immigrant service organization in the schools. And we do have service learning classes, so please look for them. Another question?
I'm in the education department, and of course, we've had the Common Core standards for a long time. In the last few years, less than 10 years, we have the social justice standards, and the 4 sections are identity, diversity, justice, and action. Do you see teachers in your area implementing those standards so that in a lesson plan, we have more than, can you read this, can you do this math problem? But the social justice standards are mapped out so that we have a better grip on doing, kind of things that you're talking about, and encouraging our students to. And these standards for social justice standards are from kindergarten to 12th grade. So I just wondered if you actually saw them implemented in the schools in your neighborhoods.
You want me to take it? Okay, I would love to take that. Now I find the explanation for it. I have seen a greater inclination and a greater work on that area. I have seen it. And I was really wondering where it came from. It is so important to raise the individual needs of the students that you serve. And just having that access and just value that identity of the students give you a completely different classroom. I see there is a different model of delivery between newer teachers and more senior teachers, if you will, in regards to social skills. So if this is the reason why they are now enforcing more that identity, diversity, I applaud you for that. As we were talking today, I was thinking, how many of you are going for education? Can you raise your hand again? Okay. How many of you are going for health? How many of you are going for business? Okay. How many of you are going for criminal justice? Okay. So the people that you're going to serve are this mesh of different peoples, So how much ahead will you be if you're able to understand better those populations that you're serving from your businesses, from your teaching positions, from your nursing positions, or, criminal justice area, everything like that. It is so necessary. So yes, I have seen more of that in the classroom.
Hi, everyone. My name is Parker, and I'm the community inclusion liaison for the city of Sioux City. So thank you. This is great. It's been great.
Nice to meet you. I've been wanting to meet you.
I'm a little busy. I'm a brand new position, but Perla, you said something that really struck a chord with me, which was the experiences of students and counselors sometimes. Because I am from Sioux Falls, South Dakota originally, but it was a private school on the basis of my parents' sacrifice a lot of income. But I did have a counselor who told my twin and myself that we both should just go to John Morrell or Smithfield, I think is what it's called here, because it's not, you won't do anything. And look at me now, I surpassed her education level. So, that sometimes people will look at your potential or people you serve around you's potential and they won't recognize it. It's important for you not to wait to value who you are. It's important for you to recognize yourself. So just note that as you go through your college journey for a lot of you. But I was going to say something we talked about a lot at the city is adding diversity. We need diversity, whether it's in place, fire, economic development. Why is that important to these students going forward? Why is important to have diversity in their area? But also, how do they support diversity when they go into their jobs, whether it is their business owner, a doctor, a nurse? Why is it important to not only like it and support it, but also care about it? Just wanted to ask.
Anyway, let's take it.
Okay. So let's see. I think it's critically important for everyone in this room to embrace those changes because you're the future. You are creating today what is going to be tomorrow. And the things that we come together on, especially with diversity, are critically important because if we don't represent, I'm going to say the smallest voice, right? If the smallest voice who is struggling in your community can't be heard, your community is only as good as that smallest unheard voice. So if we can come together by, whether it's through the police department or through your school or through your sports, or just being in your neighborhood, maybe you're going to become a mentor for somebody that's a young kid in your neighborhood that sees you every day, but you really don't have time because you're a busy person. But maybe that one day that you stop and talk to this little kid, he might go and start a Kool-Aid stand the next day. You know, when diversity is recognized, some people would be more able to take somebody being different with a larger grain of salt because, oh, I met somebody like her before, or I met somebody like him before. And maybe there's that compassion that I feel that the world is missing, compassion. But for some reason, God gave me this humongous heart that is, I have too much empathy, I feel like. But that empathy that I thought was a weakness, one of my mentors told me that is your strength. And you embrace that, caring for people, and you do what I do. I don't know, I was always that kid on the playground that when the bell rang, we got to go outside. I'm in the playground, I'm playing basketball, I'm playing football, swinging on the monkey bars. But then when I'm done playing, I look around, oh, there's these two girls sitting on the wall, like looking so sad. So I go over, hey, you want to play? So I go and get them. They want to play with me? Sure, come on, let's do whatever you want to do. Then once they're engaged and other kids got them, then I went and did my own thing. But that's been carried life. But diversity, I was raised up in with Black people, white people, Hawaiian people, Taiwanese people, all of these kind of people that I didn't speak their language beginning. But by the time 4 years of Taipei Thai American school, I recognize in the Asian culture so much love, so much respect, so much family connection that I don't see in Omaha, in the Black community. I don't see that. The Latino community in Omaha is much more diverse because in South Omaha, the Latinos' presence is the strongest right now. But South Omaha is the melting pot. It used to be the Irish presence they were in charge, more of the Irish people. And then Italian people came and they were in charge and they had all the houses. And now those communities are smaller and they're still there with the Greeks and the Czechoslovakian, Bohemian people. But Latino culture, because I think it's just the love and the compassion that they feel, they're giving out what they want back, community, family. And so the word diversity scares people, I think. I think it feels like pressure, maybe, to come out of your shell and accept somebody else's difference. But once you start to do that, then you'll find out, like me, I want to unlock everything. What are your French, your Dutch, what's your culture? I want to learn. I want to absorb whatever you have to give, because that's how we learn.
Do you want to have something to add? Is that okay? I'm so sorry. Well, as I was saying before, the population has changed already. We have changed. And we stick to the same models and patterns from the past. And we complain that the reality, is not the same. We are doing this thing and these people should go. They should go home. But what is home? What is home for someone that was born here? What is home for someone that is third generation American or fourth or fifth, but continues to look Latino, continues to look African American, or continues to look Asian American? What is home for them? This is home. It is so important to understand those cultural differences in order to help your community and serve them better. Because at the end of the day, you are creating a stronger community by communicating and understanding the needs. There are many times that I feel there is this brokenness, and somehow the immigrant community seems to be a subpar, or like a second-class citizens and a second-class system. I'm gonna set an example. You have no idea how many people working in production packing plants have actual degrees. They are doctors, dentists, computer engineers, you name it, nuclear engineers, nurses, accountants, attorneys. There is a whole bunch of people. But because they feel the English is limited, they stick to working production jobs because now they have to provide for the kids. It's not out of laziness because mastering a language will take you 7 years, according to the experts. But on the other hand, they either have to work overtime to make ends meet and provide for their fees or try to go to school further. But on the other hand, the licenses that they bring from their countries are licenses that are extremely, if not impossible, to transfer to Iowa, license in Iowa. I have seen plenty of experiences and examples where I was working for the New Iowan Center and working for Workforce. To get a dentist who was the head of the dental school in Bogota, Colombia, and had a dental practice for over 20 years. To get his dental language license in Iowa took us 5 years. Lots of documentation, and at the end of the day, he went back to college and he did in 2 years what you're normally doing 4. And he applied for his license in Iowa and was denied for the 3rd time. He got his license in Kansas, and then he was finally able to get it in Iowa. What I'm telling you is the effort, the time, and the systems. If you're telling me that those systems are fair, I will challenge that. But on the other hand, you see many of these people that go from those production places to open their own businesses. When you go down the street, who are the ones that are opening businesses and become employers and become contributors to your economy? Those immigrants that we're so scared of. And you tell me what access they have to capital. Very limited to none. Why don't they qualify for loans? Why do we make it so hard to jump through hoops and loops in order to get credits to open their businesses when they're at the end of the day generating so much employment? So there are a lot of things in the system as is that need to change to make it more welcoming. Not they're better again, but this is the people that you have. So if your community changes to a point that you only have a 20% white community and your rules continue to reflect what it was when it was 100% white, then you have an issue because you are not connecting or identifying with your new groups. That had to change to reflect the needs and ideas and reach everybody. I'm not saying this was wanting to have a phobia to everybody that doesn't look like you, but honestly, potential and ambition and hard work and determination does not have a skin color, nor has a nation of origin. If you open up, you're gonna find that you have so much in common with people from different parts in the world, regardless of their accent.
I would like to say, because the question that you asked too was like, why should this be important for people, and I always think, and then you might be thinking, well, after Morningside, I'm going back to my community, and my community is primarily white, so why, I don't need to know about different cultures. But I want to challenge that. And so there are some numbers, statistics, right? And you might very well go back to this community that's primarily white, but there is always somebody in your community that is different than you, right? That has a different life experience. Even if they are, white, part of the white community, they might have a different experience than you, right? So learning about, different cultures, different ways of life is going to make you just a more well-rounded person. It'll help think critically about the issues that affect your community and bring voices that might inform, solutions or might help you find solutions to some of the problems that, that you might face. So people, think about, I do this activity in my classes sometimes, and it's called the beads, a beads game, and I give people different colored beads, and they sort of start filling their little bucket, right, with beads. And I want you to think about this. I don't have time to go through that, but think about the shows that you watch, the music that you consume, all of those things that are about your world are. What race do they represent? And what information are you getting? Are you it's good to affirm your own identity, but are you also missing out on other things, right? Are you missing out on other perspectives? Are you missing out on getting to know your neighbor, right? And so I think of all the professions that were mentioned here, some of your education, criminal justice, medicine, right? You will encounter patients or customers that are going to be different than you. How equipped are you? I think that's something that you should always think about. Am I equipped to serve this person to the best of my ability? Am I equipped to find a solution for this person that is going to be equitable, that is going to be just, right? Not from my own positioning, but from their own positioning. And that's a skill, right? To be able to think and empathize with the other person and think how this issue might affect, them. I'm a cis woman, and to me, to be able to think about working with students that identified as something completely different than me is also a skill, right? I need to learn from them. I need to learn from people that are different than me as well. Although I enjoy my community and working and partying with my community. My husband is white, right? And I have been able to understand and learn more about what that is, right? What that experience is, what that background, what that heritage is. So I think it's important for personal growth, for personal enrichment, but also to really think critically about how to find solutions to problems that your community might have.
Were there any more student questions before
My question is for Perla. Will you plan to campaign for a spot in the Iowa House of Representatives again, or even a bigger office?
They're not ready for me. I ran for House in 2016, and I did it because you realize that a lot of local control isn't actually there. We need very solid partners with the legislature. And so I felt that I could be effective in working with education, because that's what I love about, you change lives through education. You change generations through education. Everything is about education at the end of the day. And so I did it for the education area. That was my biggest concern. However, I want to focus again on the school board, and I want to focus again on the services that our kids need today, right now, right here. I see it as a sacred responsibility, as a sacred calling to work with the children. And just to be able to watch them blossom, to watch them grow, is something that fills me completely. When I see them already in high school, and when I see them crossing the stage and getting their diploma, is one of the highlights of my life. They're like my own kids going across the stage, and I cannot tell you how proud I feel. And just to see their pride and love in their family members, that's a moment that I cannot even begin to describe to you, And so I will stick to school board for now. We'll see what happens in 4 years once I get elected this time.
So anyone you try to ask a question that I have?
Sure, this is just a brief follow-up to Samar's question. I think one of the things that we've gotten better about is promoting, hoping for drawing in to diverse voices into the midst of businesses and things like that. I think we are much less good about allowing those voices to actually shape our worldview, shape and change it.
I agree.
And so how have you seen people support, not just draw in and invite, but actually support those voices in the midst of, or how would you encourage those here to do that when they go into their own places?
I think we need to learn to relinquish power, right? And that's very uncomfortable. Some of us that hold certain privileges, right, we enjoy them and we benefit from them greatly, right? And in order sometimes to allow other people to help us find solutions, to have a voice, to really shape our institutions, our organizations, we have to step back. We have to allow that person to take maybe a leadership position or, a lead in a discussion, and offer, possible solutions that might be more relevant to who they are or to who their community needs. And that's very uncomfortable, right? I mean, why should I relinquish power when I've been benefiting from this for a long time? Like, but that's allyship, right? That's being an ally means you're gonna be okay with being uncomfortable and relinquishing some of that power that you've had or that privilege that you've enjoyed. And it's a practice. It is definitely a practice, right? You have to do it. You have to be okay with being uncomfortable. You have to be okay with letting somebody else, speak. You have to be willing, right, to listen and to be supportive, but take a step back and be there to support, not to be the spokesperson for that community or that solution that you're trying to achieve or that representation, right? So that, to me, that I've even though, some of my identities have had experiences of repression, some of my identities too are experiences of privilege. And I have to step back and I have to be able to let somebody else speak because I don't have, those experiences or all the answers to certain questions that do not relate to me. Although I can talk about it and I have knowledge, I don't have that personal experience. So somebody else can be a better person to speak about those issues. But it is with practice. We have to practice and we have to be willing to do it. Right?
One of the conversations we were having in Washington, D.C. a couple of years ago was the fact that the American people are reproducing quick enough to even be able to have their own internal gross domestic product done. That we have gone to a moment where immigration wasn't just necessary, but was imminent and urgent to attract people from other countries in order to keep our own gross domestic production. Have you ever heard that before? And I'm talking 2 years ago was during the Trump administration and their people in their departments making an analysis of how needed was immigration. As you think about this, you have to think about, are we attracting those people to your communities? Are you community friendly enough for those people to want to come and live here? Do you think you're going to breed enough children in order to be able to take on all the production of soy and corn and pork and beef that we produce in Iowa? Or do you think we actually need this will come? Are they going to feel safe when they come here? Are they safe when they talk with you? Do they feel listened and understood? So we need to go beyond the skin color and the eye color and the hair color. We need to really have honest conversations. I have talked at times and I have heard people say, but I'm not racist. My best friend is Latino. And that doesn't even say I'm not racist. I guess that even the statement, I'm not racist. My best friend is Latino is a racist statement. I have gone to courthouses to interpret. And as we're waiting for the person that I need to interpret for, the law enforcement agents are talking, but you know how those Mexicans are. They're all criminals. And then we look at me and go, oh, not you, the others. Does that make it okay to talk about like that about all Mexicans? It's like when they say, women don't know how to drive. Really? You want to see me? Danny Patrick has nothing on me. So my point is, we make these very generalized statements without actually taking the time to get to know the people around us. So as you go through the rest of your college experience, what are those things that you are doing to make your community a friendlier community? What are you doing for your community to be a better community? Are you actually doing things? And once again, many times it feels like a token person, like goes there and says their piece in their mind. But yes, many times I have felt they fell in their ears. I have had plenty of conversations with the Chamber of Commerce as of trainings that they could offer to the immigrant community. Oh yes, those are great ideas. Ask me how many of those have happened. 0. So do we really want to build those businesses or not? What are we so afraid of? If they have, or we have economic development, it's going to benefit us all, not just those businesses. So anyway, just think, don't think in the moment, think about the repercussions of a change and an adjustment in attitude and being more open and more receptive.
And that's just a ripple. That's the ripple that Perla mentioned. If you do it, and you be the example of the changes that you want to see for yourself today, for your children in the future, for your grandchildren in the future, that's the ripple. And eventually, slowly, things will change. Omaha is really stagnant. Our ripple is like, it's in a box. It's not flowing out that way, but it's because people need to get engaged at whatever level that you're at and whatever level you feel in your heart you want to serve your community. Every time you do that, you create the ripple, whether it's holding the door open for the person coming in behind you at the store or the gas station, or if it's, like I mentioned before, stopping for a little kid who's maybe, I don't know, riding his bike or something. But anyways, there's an opportunity for that human, oh, I see you, I acknowledge you. Hey, little kid, how are you? He might go home and say, oh my gosh, that kid up the street talked to me today. But the ripple effect, I think, is what is going to make everything change. So if each of you in here do one good thing, listen to one person, learn about one more ethnicity or culture that you didn't know before, then you are setting the path for that ripple to do. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I did want to ask, we've had several conversations amongst us about politicians only seem to notice Latino voters every 4 years. Right?
That's the only time that they remember that.
Right. And then when they do remember, right, there's this idea that there's this rhetoric that Latino voters are a sleeping giant, right? Which ties back to this lazy Mexican stereotype, right? That, oh, if they only cared more, if they only voted more, if they were only more active, and we have clear examples here that we have strong Latino leadership in the Midwest, right? Can you talk a little bit about why is it so surprising that, not all Latinos vote the same way, right?
Correct.
Can you talk a little bit about the diversity within Latino communities that you've seen? Because once we start replacing negative stereotypes with positive stereotypes, we solve a problem, right? Which is to think that all Latinos are a certain thing, right? So can you talk about diversity within Latino communities in your work?
I have been asked, what is it that Latino care about? Because they kind of want to tailor the message to what the Latino population wants. And my first answer is we are not a monolith, which means, are you talking about first generation Latino or fourth generation Latino? Are you talking about an 18-year-old Latino or a 30-year-old Latino or a 65-year-old Latino? Are you talking about a Latino that is married with children, or are you talking about a Latino that is single? Are you talking about a Latino with education or a Latino without education? Are you talking about a Latino that has a college degree or that speaks English versus a Latino that doesn't? Are you talking about housing? Are you talking about small businesses? Are you talking about economic development? Are you talking about education and higher education? Are you talking about safety? Are you talking about services? Are you talking about social security? Are you talking about, what are you talking about? Because just like everybody else, we're a very complex population. And my priorities might not be her priorities or her priorities or your priorities. So this is not about tailoring a message. This is about really getting to know the people that you serve and what are those things that they need and how you better will serve them. And so it is a very complicated thing. But many times Latinos feel sick and tired because you have the candidate that comes and says, hola. And with that, oh, they speak Spanish. Oh. It's almost better to get an interpreter that can actually relay the message, but there is not an actual connection or an actual ongoing connection with the Latino population. So if you're serious about running for office one day,
or if you're serious about getting the vote for your organizations or your parties, you really need to have a dialogue with them.
That's one of the things I like about being part of the Ohio Latino Affairs Commission, that right now, currently we have 11 members and we all are registered either Republican, Democrat, or like there is a diversity within that. And so when we come and talk and meet and talk about, you know, issues that are affecting our community, we have different perspectives and we understand some of us are a little conservative than others, but we come together to find solutions that are going to best serve our community from those perspectives, right? And we acknowledge that individually we might vote differently. We might, you know, care about different issues, but we also have an opportunity to come together despite our differences or because of our differences, to creatively find a solution that is going to be the most beneficial for our community. And so, and we advise the governor, right, on this sort of the issues and possible solutions that that might be best for our community. So we have, you know, we have this role as commissioners to come and, you know, implement change within a, we're not supposed to say that we, you know, influence legislative, but our input has a weight on it. And yeah, certainly, I think, yeah, so thinking that the Latinos vote only, you know, a certain way or that we're all the same, it's a big mistake. But at the same time, like Perla said, really the most important thing is to come together, to bring those voices, to find solutions that would be best for all. Even, you know, and I was talking about taking a step back from, you know, your position of privilege. And I've taken sometimes a step back because as even if I don't agree with a certain solution, but if I believe that it's the best for right now or for my community, then I support it. So yeah, I mean, that was the biggest shock to everybody except for us Latinos, right? That we voted different ways, and not only, you know, all of the differences that or issues or you know, things that Perla mentioned, but also like geography, right? Or even nationality, heritage. Latinos from Florida, Cuban Americans, vote very different than Mexican Americans from California, right? There's different political identities. So yeah, so maybe we're not a sleeping giant. We are active. We can be more active politically. But you know, when we play this political game, we have to understand that relationships that you build, like true relationships that you're building, are what matter and what are going to get you the vote more than, you know, saying hola at the beginning of it.
I just want to add one more thing. You were talking about the Ohio Commission of Latino Affairs. Iowa also has a Commission on Latino Affairs, but interestingly enough, you just have to be Republican to be part of it.
Oh.
If you're not Republican, you can be.
Oh, wow.
So this is something very interesting in Iowa. Did you know?
Oh, my goodness. The ladies have said it so very well, very, very well. And I agree with everything you're saying. I think that for me, I don't play the political game directly for most people, because when I ran for office in 2014, I didn't have a campaign. I did it on less than $400. I paid my fees and I made some Facebook and I made a couple of posters and that was it. But I've been serving my community for 30 years. And so people just know me. I put my name in the hat. We unseated 2 senators. I don't have a college education, but I have what is that called? Like street smarts? Maybe?
Life experience.
Life experience, baby queen. have life experience.
The University of Life.
The
has taught
university
you.
has beat me up and down, but it didn't kill me, so I'm stronger. And I just feel like I want to encourage each of you, you know, if you see things in your community, you want to make a difference, you want to be the change, let's give a plug for LULAC. LULAC plugs Student Advocacy Council for college students. You can make a difference, join in our council, you can go online, or easiest send me an email or go on to the lulac.org website, you can find the applications and apply. And then they'll direct you to our council, which is called the Omaha Justice Council. So we serve everybody across Nebraska, but focused in Omaha, working with Queen Ramon in Lincoln, and she's the head of Nebraska LULAC. She's been doing it for decades. So I think that you can make a change and be a part of the change. Join us like that. You can also influence and mentor the youth, 4th grade to 12th graders. Those kids are the next, you know, what you do today is what you prepare for them coming up after you. So the paths that you create to each of your positions, what you're coming to school for, you're creating a path for the next kid to be able to make it a little easier, that path, and join you, you know, one day, or just follow your path and you are their example. Because mentorship, a lot of kids are being raised today, like my son's single mom, 25 is my oldest, 14 is my youngest, and a 19-year-old in the middle. But I've done it by myself for the majority of their lives. I don't recommend single parenthood. However, if you find yourself in that position, what an honor, because you get to have the influence over your children's lives and eliminate the bickering or the trying to prove, you know, why you're right or why you're wrong. And that gets taken out of the picture. So a lot of people feel sorry for people who come from saying, oh, you only have one mom, oh, you only have one dad. Well, it's not that bad if you have a parent who wants to engage with you and let you follow your heartstrings and recognize what it is that you want to do as an individual, not necessarily the parent's dream, but your dream and your ambition. That's what's going to keep you on the straight and narrow. That's what's going to help you achieve all of your goals. So I think that it comes down to love, loving yourself, loving your community, and loving creating the path. I think that was the lesson that I have learned, the greatest lesson in my life, is that through the good things that I do, not for accolades or pats on the back or awards, I just do it because if I can help you and you call on me for help, if I can't be the expert to get you to your solution, I'll pass you off to somebody else who can help you reach your solution. And at the end of the day, that's what makes me feel good. It's not about a paycheck because I don't get paid to do the work I do, but one day I'll make some money sometime, but it's not about the money. It's about making a path. Did I help the person that came for food? Did I help the person that came for utility shutoffs? Did I help the person whose kid was stolen by CPS? Yes. And did we make a change? Yeah. Did we save that one family, one person at a time? Yeah. So I don't know how many is in this room, but just imagine your impact. When you leave here after listening and talking with everybody today, you are the change makers. You're the change agents of this world. So it's not meant to be pressure or a burden. It's a privilege. You're alive. You woke up today. You'll wake up tomorrow. So encouraging you just to be of service. I think that is the best part of being alive. Be of service, be a friend, and make those ripples.
Thank you so much to all three of you. Give them a big round of applause.